when you're the champ. I don't think you have a choice.
What are your thoughts there with Jon and Tom?
If you're the champ, you defend your belt. It's a responsibility. I know your resume is incredible. What you've done is incredible. You're considered the greatest of all time. Yeah, we get that. So if you don't want to fight, just retire. You're done. I don't want to throw shade at him. He's done great things, but when you're the champ, I don't think you have a choice. When you've got an interim champ just standing there waiting for how long?
Jon Jones appears to have ended his retirement and is now again focused on Aspinall. After only 2 weeks away from the sport, the former two-division champion has made it obvious that he is not finished yet, not when the prospect of fighting in the White House is on the table. That statement, which came with a sense of finality and thought, now feels like a stop rather than a permanent departure. The date of his re-entry into the PD testing pool, the formal first step in any UFC comeback, coincided with Donald Trump's bold pledge to stage a UFC fight at the White House, reigniting conjecture and confirming what many fans had suspected. Jon Jones isn't done until he's finished on his own terms.
Hey, I'm Scott Johnson, host of Going Ringside. Now, Jon Jones may be coming out of retirement for the chance to be involved in the White House UFC fight on the next 4th of July. Jon Bones Jones putting on X that, he's re-entered the testing pool. This only lasted about 2 weeks.
Standing in front of an Iowa gathering, he announced his plans for the event. We'll have a UFC bout on the grounds of the White House. We have a lot of land there. Dana is going to do it. That little off-the-cuff offer immediately sent shockwaves across the MMA world. No other president has ever linked national pride to the UFC in such a significant and magnificent manner. Trump, aged 79 and returning in the White House as the 47th president, intends to use MMA and its top players as focal points for America's 250th anniversary celebrations on July 4th, 2026. In his opinion, nothing screams American dominance louder than Jon Jones fighting on the White House grounds in front of a 2,500-person live audience and millions more watching around the world.
UFC White House is crazy, dude. How's that even a thing? Is that allowed? Like, how is Donald even allowed to do that? Be kind of gangster, though. Chandler versus McGregor. Be kind of gangster. Aspinall. Jon Jones wants to fight on it. Classic. Back in the testing pool after 2 weeks. Bro is a troll and a half. He's not having his title back. That just can't be happening. Ulberg Roundtree would be sick. Strickland Adesanya. Sick. Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa in the prelim.
Jones' social media activity since the announcement implies that he was either aware of the situation or seized the chance as soon as it came. On X, he wrote, "Fighting in the White House. I recently re-entered the testing pool, which lasted around 2 weeks. We figured we would keep everyone's choices open." That post alone sent fans into a frenzy. Despite his public retirement and the normal 6-month wait when re-entering the Jones is navigating in the testing pool as if the wheels have already started moving. It's a premeditated play. Drop out, exit gracefully, and return only when the stakes are historic. For a man who's already accomplished everything inside the cage, a White House battle in front of the entire world is the only prize left to pursue.
So Jon Jones just got up and left after this Nelk interview. This has to be a joke. Surely Dana is going to have to strip Jon Jones because this can't keep happening. Like, you're the heavyweight champion, it's your job to defend the belt. And if you don't want to defend it, then retire. It's so strange to me. It's strange how the UFC keeps defending him. He's still the heavyweight champion but won't fight. And what is he expecting by going on all of these media tours when people bring up the question of Tom Aspinall? Like, he's on a media tour.
The most apparent and poetic matchup for that stage is with Tom Aspinall. Jones' decision to walk away last year left the UK interim heavyweight champion hanging. The UFC attempted to set up a unification bout, pitting the British juggernaut against the most decorated American MMA fighter of all time, but Jones pulled the plug. Aspinall, by all accounts, deserved the shot. He smashed opponents, carried himself with composure, and despite his status as interim champion, was left in the unpleasant situation of being the best man standing with no one to fight. When Jones retired, Aspinall's title was only recognized in name. He never received the vindication that comes with defeating the man who everyone feels is the true champion. If Jones returns, that affirmation may come in the most theatrical way possible, on the grounds of the White House on July 4th, in front of Donald Trump.
That's the hard thing about giving opinions on this, because it's just opinions. Like, we don't know the facts of what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what's been said from Jon's side or Aspinall's side, and I do give Aspinall the benefit of the doubt, believing that if he didn't think the Jon Jones fight was going to happen, like, he probably would have taken another fight. Where we're comparing it with the Chandler situation. It felt to me
The entire MMA industry has jumped into the conversation. Athletes, fans, and everyone is circling the idea of a symbolic US against UK confrontation. It's no longer only about the belt. It is about legacy, nationalism, and optics. One fan put it bluntly: it's the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Tom Aspinall, an English fighter and UFC heavyweight champion, will face Jon Jones, considered the best American MMA fighter of all time. That sentiment has spread across platforms. People want a fight that has meaning, not just in standings, but also in representation. A fight between Aspinall and Jones would have layers of tension, history, and nationalism that few matches could match.
Donald Trump just said that he wants to hold a UFC event at the White House next year for America's 250th birthday. And not just any UFC event, he wants to hold a championship UFC event at the White House next year. And this got me thinking, what a perfect time for Jon Jones to come out of retirement and fight Tom Aspinall at the White House next year for America's 250th.
Other candidates that have been mentioned include Conor McGregor, Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes, Colby Covington, Sean Strickland, and Ilia Topuria. Jones versus Aspinall continues to dominate the conversation. Kayla Harrison may be the sole remaining American UFC champion, and her victory over Juliana Pena at UFC 316 undoubtedly won her that title, but she does not have the same global weight as Jones. Her submission victory was dominant. But Jon Jones is a legendary figure in the sport. Controversial, flawed, and invincible. Harrison's star has yet to shine as brightly as Bone's shadows, despite her talent and burgeoning recognition.
Hey USA, what's new with you? Kinda weird, but Trump wants to host a UFC fight in the White House. I have so many questions, but let's start with why. So next year in 2026 is our 250th birthday. And because of that, Trump wants to make a huge celebration and he wants to make it unforgettable. So he was like, how about we hold a UFC fight in the White House? And UFC is okay with that? Oh yeah, Trump is good friends with Dana White, who is the boss of UFC. Back in 2001, Trump helped Dana White and let him use his casino, Trump Taj Mahal, to host a UFC event. And no,
Jones' track record adds to the fire. This isn't merely a comeback after a brief retirement. This represents a return to a legacy that has been contaminated, elevated, analyzed, and admired. He's been suspended, tested, and doubted, and still managed to remain unblemished in terms of what happens inside the cage. His victory versus Stipe Me in November 2024, despite being classified as a routine stoppage, was another example of control. The man knows how to win even when he isn't required to. In many ways, his absence following that duel made Aspinall's rise feel incomplete. Aspinall didn't win the title. He was handed the remainder. Fighting Jones in this scenario is about more than just a belt. It's all about legitimacy.
But it's the legacy. To be able to go to the heavyweight division, take out everyone, and then take out the Jon Jones legend, and then go back to even beating a few of these new school guys, will literally put Tom Aspinall as the GOAT of the heavyweight division.
That's the narrative the UFC will most likely use if the bout is booked. Dana White has always complimented Trump's dedication to the promotion, even going so far as to state that Trump was one of the first to offer the UFC a public platform. Now, with Trump giving the White House as a venue, that loyalty is being rewarded in a spectacular way. Trump understands the optics. American gladiators compete for supremacy on the world's most powerful turf. White receives the spectacle. The UFC is the focal point of a global political event, and the boxers get the opportunity to make history in a way that will never be repeated.
I would even say this, and I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I would say that Jon Jones ducked Tom Aspinall so hard that he went through self-destructive measures just to avoid a fight with this man. That's how good Tom Aspinall is. And everyone you're going to list off is going to get beat.
Well, we'll see.
Aspinall has spoken little publicly since Trump's pronouncement, but there's no doubt he intends to fight. There's even less doubt that Jones, despite his ambiguous rhetoric and semi-retirement, is fully committed. This is no longer a hypothetical. Fans believe it. Fighters are rearranging their schedules. UFC is building the groundwork. The logistics may still be in flux, but in the eyes of the public, the struggle has already begun. And in certain places, that is sufficient.
I'm imposing an International Fight Week deadline. Right here and now, I'm imposing this deadline. And by the way, they announced that they're going to do a press conference tour for Canelo Crawford. And one of the stops is June 27th, the day before Ilya versus Charles, International Fight Week, 317. I'm imposing an International Fight Week deadline. An announcement must be made. A decision must be made. That's when the eyes of the MMA world are on the UFC.
What's noteworthy, if not overtly problematic, is how Jones is being lauded for potentially reversing a retirement that lasted only a month, while other fighters are chastised for flip-flopping on decisions. But Jones is not like the other combatants. He is the outlier that the sport has never really understood. He has never played by the rules, not in the cage, in his personal life, or in public opinion. He vanishes, reappears, ruins legends, walks away, and returns stronger. He's disorganized, contradictory, and untouchable. That's why this conflict is unique. It is not about records or rankings. It is about show, symbolism, and dominance.
Guys, I have never seen a fight that we've wanted that we've then been denied. No different than the girl at school that you're chasing and she's telling you no. Lose steam. This fight is a smaller fight now than it was 3 months ago. Aspinall versus Jones, which, by the way, I don't maintain for that could be resurrected one press conference or one Instagram live by Dana. I'm just sharing for you right now. Jones and Aspinall was not only hotter 3 months ago, it was hotter than that 5 months ago. And it is.
Some feel that mixing politics and combat sports at this level is detrimental to the sport's purity. However, those folks have not been paying attention. The UFC has always been political, from its roots as a fringe spectacle prohibited in several states to its mainstream acceptability, Dana White's open connection with Trump, and fights held during the epidemic while other sports were closed down. The UFC has flourished by embracing controversy and turning it into a promotional tool.
There's going to be those people
wasted a part of his life in the UFC.
There's going to be those people that'll say that Jon Jones is his own worst enemy, and Tom Aspinall's lucky that Jon got in his own way.
I just hope it stops. Like, I hope, okay, this is it. He's going to really learn his lesson this time. And no more. Dude, and again, we have no idea the pressure of being Jon Jones and a celebrity. Like, it's got to be insane. There's been so many great Jon Jones moments inside the cage.
Dana White has stated from the start that Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall is the matchup he wants to make. Back in April, he stated publicly, "That's the fight we want to make this year," insisting that Jones would have to meet Aspinall if he wanted to continue. Dana didn't believe Jones' lengthy farewell speech, which he posted online. He told reporters, "That's crazy," and promised to do everything he could to make the battle happen. On the Jim Rome show, White doubled down, saying if Jones was back post-MSG, he had to face the British heavyweight. Dana's firm tone allowed little space for ambiguity. He wanted this battle not only for what it represented for the division, but also because it completed an unfinished story that fans had been demanding. And now that Donald Trump has announced a White House UFC bout to commemorate the 250th anniversary, White has every reason to go all in.
It's Aspinall's fight. I mean, we've been talking to this kid forever about it, and it's his fight. Listen, you can't make people fight. If Jon doesn't want to fight, you can't make him fight. We can try to make him fight. We can throw things at him that inspire him to want to fight, but we'll figure it out.
Tom Aspinall has not kept quiet either. The British champion has waited patiently for Jones to step up. In a recent interview, Aspinall said the UFC was holding the championship hostage. He described how all the talk about Jones being the greatest was beginning to sound like a myth created to keep him from facing actual threats. "If he's that good, let's fight," he yelled, his voice breaking through the public relations racket. Aspinall also stated that after UFC 309, when Jones gave his post-fight address, he looked directly at the UFC executives and the energy in the room made it plain that they all wanted to fight. But when it didn't materialize and Jones chose to walk away, Aspinall didn't hold back. He made it clear that, while the promotion focused on legacy and marketing, he was standing there as the world's finest current heavyweight, waiting.
But what did you make of it when you heard Jon calling out Alex of all people?
I think he does do this because, Alex Perez now he's like big star in the UFC, everybody loves him, so he know what he's doing, but I believe he should to fight against Aspinall, but I think he a little bit afraid of him, because Aspinall is someone who can really stop him and beat him.
Yeah,
but that's what I think that he believes if he can.
Michael Bisping addressed the subject from a different perspective. The former middleweight champion stated that Jones was not only responding to Trump's White House announcement. Bisping believes Jones still has something to prove, not to fans, but to Tom Aspinall. He claimed that while the White House incident served as a catalyst, the true motivation was more profound. This is about Tom Aspinall. This is about Jon Jones demonstrating that he is still the man. Bisping, a fellow Brit, has publicly supported Aspinall, but he understands the Jones mindset. He understands Jones has always thrived on suppressing adversaries who believe they have what it takes. Bisping sees this as both a psychological and a physical war.
That would be beyond disappointing, actually, from a marketing standpoint, from a landscape of where the UFC is at the standpoint. That would be a complete pay-per-view disaster.
We'd see the strength of the UFC brand at Madison Square Garden if that ends up being, because all respect to Tom, but he has never headlined a pay-per-view, so plopping him at the top of Madison Square Garden against Cyril Gane I think would be tough, but we'll see what they can do.
Man, that would be tough. I mean, you'd have to have.
Conor McGregor enthusiastically replied to Trump's announcement. "Happy 4th of July, USA. I would feel honored. Count me in," he wrote. Even though McGregor is not a major player in the heavyweight division, his presence is always noticed. His texts to Dana White concerning the possibility of battling on the card have already circulated on several media. It's unclear whether he would appear in an official capacity, but his presence in the conversation heightens the spectacle. McGregor remains one of the most prominent figures in combat sports, and each indication of his return heightens public interest.
But he's like the longest running heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC, isn't he? But he's only he hasn't fought anyone. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Jon gets a lot of money for being champion. I think the sponsors are not paying him a fortune, and I think he's just dragging along, keeping the belt as long as possible because it's worth that much money to him. I mean, Jon's often struggled with tall people who are good boxers. I imagine if he did fight him, he would probably.
Stipe Miocic, who fought Jones last year and lost by TKO, made multiple comments about Aspinall's ascension during media rounds prior to his own fight. He acknowledged the crowd's chant for Aspinall and commented that it was unusual to witness so much excitement for a battle that wasn't even on the schedule. Miocic didn't add much gasoline to the fire, but Jones' handling of him after the fight created questions. Jones denied a handshake, made strong statements in response to perceived disrespect, and then left without giving Miocic an opportunity to speak. That tension just added to Jones' mystery and unconventional approach to the game.
I don't know, did you see his series of tweets over the last few days inferring that basically he told you guys that he was retired last November and that your efforts to make the Aspinall fight were basically futile?
It's not true.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that what you wanted to ask me?
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. But what do you make of him coming out and saying saying contrary to what you've said there?
I don't know. I'm telling you the truth. Believe who you want to believe.
Francis Ngannou, who formerly topped the UFC's heavyweight rankings, expressed his dissatisfaction with the way things have turned out. In a Reddit AMA and subsequent interviews, he stated that he had been attempting to fight Jones for years, but that the opportunity had never presented itself. "I tried to resist him for 4 years, but they set it up like a trap. It was bait," Ngannou explained. Many people agree with him, believing Jones picks his opponents and timelines carefully. Ngannou believes Aspinall's emergence is not a surprise, but rather a continuation of what he predicted before leaving for PFL. He believes the division has progressed without Jones, and that the champion's comeback now is more about optics competition.
Is Jon Jones scared to fight you?
Yes. Jon is conning the public. The fact that he didn't want to fight Ngannou for 3 years and now he's not wanting to fight me for over a year.
Is that fight fucking happening?
The UFC are saying that it's going to happen. I think it's down to him and Dana.
Dana loves Jon Jones.
He's trying to grease up his ego a little bit. Daniel Cormier, Jones' longtime foe, took a more measured approach. He conceded that Jones' retirement may not be genuine, but he does not believe Jones is terrified of Aspinall. Instead, Cormier presented it as part of Jones' overall career rhythm, in which exits and returns are part of the plan. He's not afraid of anyone, Cormier explained, but I also don't know if he's motivated the same way anymore. His statements reveal a deeper knowledge of Jones's internal game, implying that, while the White House fight may provide something fresh, it's difficult to say whether it actually reignites Jones's fire.
Cormier was asked who would win between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, and he said with a you-know-what to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Tom has never been pushed to the championship rounds. This is super interesting from a guy who lost to Jon Jones twice, and he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. And I know people are going to be outraged with Daniel Cormier here. They're going to call him stupid. They're going to say Tom Aspinall would have destroyed Jon Jones, and a lot of that is just because people don't like Jon Jones right now, and rightfully so. I completely understand why he ruined the heavyweight division for like 2 years. But I also kind of think that Jon Jones would beat Tom Aspinall, and there are a couple of reasons for it.
Meanwhile, fan reactions have been loud and divided. Many people believe Jones has ducked Aspinall long enough. Some argue that if he truly wanted the battle, it would have happened last year. Others claim that the UFC is safeguarding Jones' image by refusing to risk a loss against a budding star from the UK on the largest platform. Reddit threads erupted with allegations that Jones' legacy cannot be secured without confronting Aspinall. One instructor at TriStar Gym even claimed that Aspinall is the only heavyweight fighter capable of defeating Jones. The longer the delay, the more forceful the take. Fans want solutions, not marketing.
As much as I love Tom and I want Tom to win, I couldn't pick against Jon Jones. I'll be honest, Tom's a friend. I love Tom. He's one of the coolest dudes in the whole of MMA. Even though Jones is getting old, I just can't pick against Jon Jones. I've been watching Jon Jones, as I say, since 2000.
Still, the dominating storyline within the UFC ecosystem revolves around a single battle. Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. The clamor, the pressure, and the power players are coming together. Dana White wants it. Trump wants it. Fans want it. Aspinall is ready. Jones has re-entered the testing pool. Whatever reservations he had about his intentions are beginning to dissipate. Every signal points to a showdown between the sport's most decorated champion and the division's most frightening new threat. But do you believe this will happen?